Alex Eala's Wimbledon campaign came to an end, 3-set loss to Italy's Jasmine Paolini.
Alex Eala's heartbreaking defeat left millions of fans disappointed. But what happened just moments later stunned the entire tennis world. While many stayed quiet, one respected voice refused to hold back. Sandro Viaene finally broke his silence, and his message quickly spread across social media, leaving fans emotional and sparking thousands of reactions. His words shifted the entire conversation. So, what did he say that has everyone talking? Let's find out. The moment Alex Eala's final shot landed just out of bounds at Wimbledon, a collective gasp echoed around the world. Millions of hearts sank as the young Filipina's remarkable run came to a heartbreaking end. For many fans, it felt like the conclusion of an unforgettable journey that had captured the attention of the global tennis community. But that wasn't the end of the story. Just when it looked like the headlines would focus only on the loss, an unexpected voice emerged to shift the narrative. Sandro Viaene stepped forward with a heartfelt, emotionally powerful message that quickly went viral, leaving the internet buzzing with shock, inspiration, and admiration. His words reminded fans that some defeats carry far more weight than the final score and that true greatness often reveals itself in moments of disappointment. Viaene is a name that commands real respect in tennis circles, and he watched everything unfold from a vantage point few people could truly understand. When he finally broke his silence, his message did far more than simply respond to Alex's defeat. It challenged the narrative that was starting to take shape. Instead of offering predictable words of comfort, he delivered a statement that immediately captured the attention of tennis fans around the world, spreading across social media, sparking passionate debate, and drawing an overwhelming wave of emotion from supporters across the globe. The tennis community found itself divided, screenshots of his statement circulating everywhere, as millions of fans asked the same question: what exactly did Sandro Viaene say? The answer, by most accounts, went far beyond a simple show of support for a young player who'd suffered a painful loss. His message touched on something deeper, a lesson about resilience, greatness, and the unseen sacrifices required to compete at the highest level of professional tennis. A reminder that champions aren't defined only by their victories, but by how they respond when everything seems to slip away. As Alex Eala walked off the Wimbledon court, she kept her head held high despite the disappointment on her face. Fans around the world admired her composure and grace in the face of heartbreak. Behind the scenes, though, a different story was beginning to take shape, one that would soon capture the attention of the entire tennis world. Alex Eala's defeat at Wimbledon was far more than another loss on her record. It represented months of relentless training, sacrifice, and preparation that had all led to one defining moment. For Sandro Viaene, who has spent years around the sport and watched countless rising stars live through both triumph and heartbreak, this particular defeat carried a deeper meaning. He reportedly saw something in Alex's performance that many others had overlooked, something that convinced him this wasn't the end of her journey, but the beginning of a new chapter. When Viaene finally chose to speak, his words carried the weight of experience and a deep understanding of what it takes to succeed at the highest level. Rather than add to the criticism and doubt beginning to circle her, he offered a different perspective altogether, shifting the conversation away from the result itself and toward the remarkable progress Alex had made throughout the tournament. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, he reportedly focused on everything that had gone right: the maturity, the composure, the fearless tennis she'd shown against some of the best players in the world, arguing that her run had only strengthened her reputation as one of the sport's brightest young talents. His perspective encouraged fans to look past the scoreboard and see the bigger picture. The message, delivered with real conviction and emotional depth, resonated immediately with supporters still trying to process the disappointment of her elimination. Within hours, fans were sharing his words across social media, praising the perspective and embracing the idea that Alex's Wimbledon campaign wasn't a heartbreaking ending, but a powerful foundation for something bigger down the road. The reaction online was remarkable. Within hours, platforms like X, Instagram, and Facebook were flooded with responses from fans across the globe. Filipino supporters who'd been mourning the end of an inspiring campaign suddenly found renewed hope and motivation. The conversation quickly grew beyond tennis, touching on universal themes of resilience, perseverance, and the courage to keep moving forward despite disappointment. Tennis journalists and commentators rushed to weigh in on the significance of what Viaene had said, with many agreeing he'd put into words what countless fans had been feeling but struggled to articulate themselves. His perspective offered a different way to look at the defeat, shifting focus away from the final result and toward the progress Alex had made across the whole tournament. Competing at the highest level, challenging some of the best players alive, and earning the respect of the global tennis community, he argued, were achievements worth celebrating in their own right. His words turned what could have been remembered as a heartbreaking ending into a reminder that her journey is only beginning, and her brightest moments may still lie ahead. The emotional impact landed especially hard with young, aspiring tennis players who saw a reflection of their own dreams and struggles in Alex. His message became a source of inspiration for a lot of people, reinforcing the idea that true greatness isn't defined by a single win or loss, but by the determination to keep fighting, learning, and believing in yourself regardless of the outcome. For many fans, it served as a timely reminder that every setback can become the foundation for an even bigger comeback. As reactions kept pouring in, one thing became hard to ignore. Viaene had reshaped the entire narrative around Alex's Wimbledon exit, trading disappointment for optimism and giving supporters a renewed reason to believe in her future. Instead of dwelling on the loss, fans began celebrating the resilience, maturity, and potential she'd shown throughout the tournament. Part of what made the moment land the way it did wasn't just what was said, but when it was said. In the immediate aftermath of the defeat, thoughtful perspective was in short supply. Critics were quick to pick apart what had gone wrong, while the absence of strong voices defending her achievements let negativity spread fast across social media. Viaene stepped into that gap with a message that cut through the criticism and pointed back at the bigger picture, encouraging fans to recognize the remarkable journey that had brought her to that stage and the potential still ahead of her. His words shifted the conversation from disappointment to hope and proved, in a way, that some of the most meaningful victories happen long after the final point has been played. Then, while emotions were still running high, Viaene offered a perspective that brought real clarity and compassion to a moment full of disappointment, refusing to let the conversation be defined by criticism alone. He reportedly spoke about the immense pressure that comes with representing an entire nation on one of sport's biggest stages, the enormous expectations placed on a young athlete's shoulders, and the mental strength it takes to compete under the watchful eyes of millions. He emphasized that simply earning the chance to compete at Wimbledon is an extraordinary achievement on its own. Thousands of talented players dedicate their lives to this sport every year, dreaming of stepping onto those historic grass courts, and only a select few ever make it. Alex hadn't just reached that stage, she'd proven she belonged there, standing toe-to-toe with some of the best players in the world. According to Viaene, that accomplishment should never be overshadowed by the outcome of a single match. Success, he argued, is measured by continuous growth, fearless competition, and the willingness to challenge the very best, not solely by lifting a trophy. His words carried real authority and resonated widely. Rather than dwell on the disappointment of defeat, he encouraged people to appreciate the resilience, discipline, and determination Alex had shown throughout her Wimbledon run, reminding supporters that reaching the top of professional tennis takes years of sacrifice, countless hours of training, and the courage to push through setbacks most people never see behind the scenes. Those qualities, in his view, are the real marks of a champion. Viaene also pushed back on the idea that losing is the same as failing, pointing out that every legendary champion in tennis has lived through heartbreaking defeats before ever reaching the top of the sport. Moments that tested their confidence, questioned their ability, and forced them to grow. Those setbacks didn't define their careers. They became the foundation future triumphs were built on. In his view, Alex's Wimbledon defeat deserves that same lens, not the end of a dream, but another chapter in a much bigger story still being written. For Filipino supporters, that message carried extra emotional weight. Millions had invested their hearts in this Wimbledon campaign, celebrating every win and believing history was within reach. Defeat naturally left many heartbroken. But Viane's reminder that genuine support shouldn't depend solely on winning, that true fans stand beside their athletes through the highest highs and the lowest lows, celebrating the effort and courage it takes to compete against the world's best, helped shift the conversation from disappointment toward appreciation. Instead of asking why she lost, people started talking about how far she'd come, how much she'd improved, and how bright her future could be. His words became a reminder that careers aren't defined by one difficult afternoon, but by the ability to learn, adapt, and come back stronger. By the end of the day, Viaene's message had become more than a reaction to one match. It had turned into a broader lesson about perseverance and the mindset it takes to achieve greatness. For Alex, and for countless young athletes watching around the world, it served as a reminder that setbacks are temporary, but character is permanent. Sometimes the most meaningful victories aren't found on a scoreboard. They're found in the courage to keep believing, keep improving, and keep moving forward when the world expects you to give up. The emotional reach of Viaene's words went well beyond the tennis community. Even people who'd never followed a match found themselves moved by his defense of a young athlete's dignity and potential because it spoke to something universal, the experience of facing disappointment, absorbing criticism, and finding the strength to keep going. It stopped being just about Alex or Wimbledon. It became a reminder that everyone, regardless of profession or dream, eventually faces setbacks that test their character. As the statement kept circulating, fans from different countries began sharing their own stories of perseverance, saying Viaene's words had pushed them to look at failure differently, not as the end of a journey, but as a chance to grow and come back stronger. The conversation kept expanding beyond tennis into a broader discussion about how we measure success in sport and in life. Maybe the most unexpected part of this whole story is how far it traveled. Viaene's message did more than reshape the conversation around one defeat. It challenged long-held assumptions about what it actually means to succeed, encouraging people to recognize the countless hours of sacrifice and discipline that are usually invisible to the public, and reminding everyone that greatness isn't measured solely in trophies, but in resilience, humility, and the courage to keep believing when things get hard. For Alex Eala, receiving public support from someone as respected as Viaene could end up being a genuinely defining moment in her career. Young athletes tend to remember not just their biggest wins, but the people who believed in them during their hardest moments. That kind of vote of confidence has real power to strengthen belief and fuel motivation heading into whatever comes next. It was also a reminder of something easy to forget in the heat of competition. Championships are rarely won overnight. Every legendary player has lived through heartbreaking losses and moments where people doubted whether they'd ever fulfill their potential. Those setbacks became the lessons that shaped what came after. History keeps showing that resilience is often what separates good players from truly great ones. As the dust settled and reactions kept rolling in from every corner of the world, one thing became clear. The conversation was no longer just about the final score of Alex's Wimbledon match. It had shifted toward her journey, her potential, and the example she continues to set for young athletes everywhere. Viaene's message left people with a simple idea, that true greatness isn't determined by one win or one loss, but by the strength to rise after disappointment and keep chasing something better. Maybe that's the most lasting takeaway of all. Long after the headlines fade and this tournament becomes a line in the record books, people will remember the courage Alex showed, the grace she carried through adversity, and the words that pushed an entire community to see past one painful result. Some messages end up mattering beyond the sport they came from. Reminders that character gets built in hard moments, that hope can come out of heartbreak, and that every ending carries the possibility of becoming the start of something bigger. The story of Alex Eala is still being written. Tennis Unfiltered.